Welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast with me and my good buddy Thomas Bailey. As we got a little interesting episode to get into, we were going to do our first mock draft of the season. I understand the NFL draft is still a far time away, but as the NFL season nears to the end, the draft order gets more and more set, and the college football season's ending, so prospects are getting more set. I just thought it'd be a fun little thing to do. Do our, I guess, mid-season mock draft to see where we think people will fall. Obviously, it's going to change a lot over these next 6 months, but just to have a little bit of fun. And then after that, we're going to get into college football, react to this last week and what we think the rankings should be ahead of tonight's ranking show, and then talk some Sabres as we weren't really able to get into it on the last episode, and they had a very good West Coast trip. So we're definitely going to want to get into that and preview this week's games. But starting off for the mock draft, the way we're going to do it, no trades. It's just going to be the first round, and we're just going to go back and forth. I will start with the first overall pick. I will. We're doing it on my phone. We can't. We try to do the screen share thing on the computers, and it just ends up glitching out. So we're just going to do it on our phone, and then just tell you guys what we have. So let's get into it. For the first pick with the Jaguars, right now I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go with Travis Hunter, as I just think it makes the most sense. They need a wide receiver. They need a corner. He can do both. I think he'll be more of a corner at the NFL level, but I think he'll be someone that like plays corner primarily, and then will be in there 15 to 20 snaps, third downs, passing situations, can bring you some value there. And I think he's probably best player available besides maybe Ashton Genty, and you're not going to take a running back with the first pick. So the Jaguars need talent. He's a great talent. I think it's just a match made in heaven there, especially since they don't need a quarterback. But if we were doing trades, I feel like this is a good scenario where the Jags might trade down if they end up with the first pick, just because quarterback, even in a weak class like this, is so highly valued. Someone might want to try and jump the next two teams in the Giants and Raiders, who are also looking for quarterbacks. But since we are not doing trades, I think it's pretty simple that we go with Travis Hunter as I take it over to you for the Giants with the second pick.
Yeah, I kind of contemplated this one a little bit. Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, which one do you really go with? I personally believe Cam Ward's the better quarterback. I think Shador is still a solid guy. I feel like the issue, though, with Cam Ward is he does need a kind of a clean pocket to work with more than anything. We kind of see that at Miami right now, where he's not really the perfect scrambler type quarterback. He definitely can improvise and make those plays, but I think there's a fine line between an improviser and a scrambling quarterback, and I feel like he's closer to the improviser side. However, either way, I think the Giants are getting a great quarterback here. I think that's their biggest need by far. They definitely still need offensive line. That's still something that's going to be of great concern for them moving forward. But I feel like that's something you address in free agency, especially considering the real weak position areas coming into this next free agency class. So I feel like that's something that they're going to go ahead and do, and go ahead and give me Cam Ward to go number 2 overall to the Giants as we kick it back to you for those Raiders at number 3.
Yeah, I think with you taking Cam Ward there, I think this makes it a super easy pick for the Raiders. They also desperately need a quarterback. And sure, Shador just kind of seems like a match made in heaven for there. I know a lot of Raiders fans that have been clamoring for him. He's got Dion and obviously Brady have a great relationship. Brady being a minority owner of the Raiders, Dion is, whether you believe it or not, will have some influence on where Shador goes. He has a lot of influence in the football world. I think he's going to push heavily for Shador to end up like a team with the Raiders. Obviously, a big time city in Las Vegas. So I think this kind of just a match made in heaven. They need a quarter. They need a pocket passing quarterback. That's what they have right now, and I think they're kind of building their team around that. That's what they seem to like, and I think that fits perfectly here. And we know Shador can play well under pressure with a bad offensive line, as we've seen. Colorado has not had good offensive line play these last 2 years, and he still puts up good numbers. So I think this is just, I think it's fits perfectly. Top three picks, in my opinion. If this is the draft order, I think go in that order. I don't really see much change unless you flip the two quarterbacks. But yeah, give me Shador here as I kick it over to you.
Yeah, I definitely thought about an offensive lineman at number 4 for the New England Patriots. However, I decided to go with Tatoria McMillan. Amazing wide receiver. He had that insane game that I'm sure everybody's heard about. But he's just been absolutely phenomenal for them, a very consistent wide receiver. And that's something that they very much so lack. And I feel like more and more as the season's gone on, I feel like there's a lot more people leaning offensive line for the Patriots. instead of the offensive like weaponry, I guess, more than anything, considering Hunter Henry's kind of had a decent year after May came in. Keyshawn Boutte has been pretty solid at the receiver position. Kendrick Bourne just caught his first touchdown pass of the season last week. But even with those things, I feel like you absolutely have to go with another receiver here. You want to work on the O-line, you got to take the Giants approach and just worry about it in free agency. I think that's something that everybody's been seemingly doing these last few years. Look at the Panthers. That's what they did last year. They have a very solid offensive line, too. That's probably one of the most underrated things about the Panthers. But right here at number 4, I'm going to have to go ahead and pick Tatoria McMillan. I think he's just a match made in heaven for these guys from New England. So kick it back to you for the aforementioned Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I think I love that pick for the Patriots. Also, you got to look at it as they just need so much talent, best player available, and Tatori McMillan is a better prospect than Calvin Banks and Will Campbell. So you get
Exactly.
you're
And we saw
helping
the
out Drake
exact
May.
same thing a couple years ago when
Yeah,
Jamar Chase went over Penei Sewell, and look at
exactly.
how that worked for them. So
Exactly. So to me, I'm gonna go a little bit, I think, more surprising. I think a lot of people expect probably Mason Graham at this pick with how bad their D line has been. But I think a lot of that has to be with Derek Brown being injured. So I'm gonna go with, in my opinion, the best pass rusher in this class because they desperately need pass rush. I'm gonna go with Abdul Carter from Penn State.
hell yeah. You know
I
ball,
think
buddy.
this fits perfectly. I think when you bring Derek Brown back, you add him. I think, as a perfect Brian Burns replacement. I think that D line becomes pretty underrated at that point. Because I think Derek Brown is an absolute beast, but he just was injured to start the year, and then there's no reason to, even if he was healthy, to rush him back because they suck. So yeah, having Mason Graham would be kind of crazy. Them two in the middle, but I just think that Abdul is just a better need. And pass rush is more important. So I think it fits there. Will Johnson was also in consideration here, as they do have J.C. Horn, but you have two good corners, it can really transform that defense because you can do so many different things. But at the end of the day, they need pass rush badly. So I think Abdul fits here perfectly. As I kick it over to you for the Tennessee Titans.
I feel like for the second year in a row, the Titans kind of get screwed over here. I think they really wanted Abdul Carter off the edge. They need an edge rusher pretty badly, in my opinion. But he gets sniped, so they go ahead and go over to Michigan, where they're going to find Will Johnson, a cornerback. They need one super badly here. I think this is just a little too high for Malachi Starks, but if they wanted to trade back and pick him, I would not be opposed to that either. However, for this situation, with no trades, I think the best spot, really the best player to pick here, is Will Johnson for them. They need somebody opposite L'Jarius Sneed. It's kind of shown all season that they just don't have anybody. It's been a revolving door for a few years now with Christian Fulton. I think they just tried to get CJ Henderson or whatever too a couple of years ago. Just nothing's really working out for them. So basically, they're just, the reclamation project way is just not working. They need to go ahead and draft somebody, and they do with this pick at 6th overall. Give me Will Johnson, who in my opinion is by far the best cornerback in this class.
Yeah, I agree. Then moving on, we now have the Jets, and you actually mentioned the guy I'm going to take here in Malachi Starks. I think he is probably, it's between him and Mason Graham for best player available, but the Jets probably have the worst safety room in the league, or if not one of the worst. It's pretty bad. I know a Jets fan personally, and every single week, all he does is complain about how bad Tony Adams is and how bad their
Yeah,
safeties
Tony
are.
Adams, baby.
So I think that it's pretty comical actually how much he hates him. But I think Malachi Starks is the best safety in the class by far, the best safety since Kyle Hamilton, and we saw how good he turned out to be. It's pretty rare that safety products miss. Um, they're like one of like the higher hit rate like positions. Usually your top prospects end up being really good. I think you pair him. Maybe they bring back DJ Reed and Sauce, and this secondary can get back to being dominant how it has in years past. So I was contemplating Mason Graham there, but with the fact that they do have Quinnen Williams, and they have no safeties at all, I think Malachi Starks is just a better fit for them. As we kick it over to you for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns are one of those teams where you really can go a bunch of different ways with these guys. I think they need a linebacker, but they don't have too many really great linebackers on the board, in my opinion. I mean, everybody and their brother had Harold Perkins Jr. going to either the Titans or the Browns near the top of the draft. However, Harold Perkins hasn't really played as well as everybody thought he would out of LSU. The linebackers have just kind of started to fall since the beginning of the season. Even Jordan Hall, a Michigan State linebacker who looked to be very good, he's kind of fallen down the rankings too after a 5-6 start for Michigan here as they head into their final game. I do think that this pick is just interesting for me, but you lost Amari Cooper. You need a receiver. Go out and get Luther Burden, baby.
All
I
right, that's
love the
fair.
fit for that. I think that the best means of preparation for these guys is if a team like the Vikings let go of a guy like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold would be a perfect bridge quarterback. I think that realistically, where they are, they need a bridge guy. I think that's something that they have to go out and do is get a bridge quarterback. I can't expect them to try and go out and get somebody else. I think that something that works really perfect here, though, is Luther Burden. He makes a lot of sense for the team, and I feel like out of Mizzou, it's an interesting fit for them. I like Cedric Tillman, I do, but I don't think he's a wide receiver number one. I think Luther Burden is your guy. You go out there and get him with the 8th overall pick.
Yeah, I love that. And then if you're the Saints, you're so happy right now with the way this board fell. Because what do they desperately need? Interior defensive line. Brian Greasy is just not it. And the
Mason
best
Graham.
defensive lineman falls to you at 9. Mason Graham just fits here perfectly. Their run defense has been pretty bad so far this year.
Oh,
And
yes.
they're good D linemen. And like I guess you could say Chase Young, but mostly Cameron Jordan. They're getting up there in age. Their linebackers are getting up there in age. Bring in someone like Mason Graham, and he can really turn around a defensive line just by being as dominant as he is. I think that is a match made in heaven. You're a Saints fan. You're extremely happy if that was to happen at pick 9. I think that just makes too much sense to pass that up. As I kick it over to you for the Cincinnati Bengals at pick 10.
Hear me out. A lot of people think T. Higgins is going to stay. I don't think it happens.
I heard
I think we
reports that
double
he's not coming
down.
back.
Yeah, I think we double down here on receivers in my last 2 picks. And the perfect fit, in my opinion, by a country mile. Even if Luther Burden was on the board, I still hope they pick Emeka Egbuka. He is such a phenomenal wide receiver, 1. And 2, on top of that, there has been so many cool things about this guy that you have learned over the course of this final season. He is 1, loyal. He is 2, not caring about his targets and things like that. He is the exact opposite of what T. Higgins wants to be. Higgins wants to go out and be a number 1. Emeka Egbuka does not care. He does not care how many touches he gets. He just wants to get involved in the game and play the game he loves. And that's a perfect fit right now, especially since Burrow's always going to look for Chase first, no matter who they draft at this spot. On top of that, you stay local. You stay in the state of Ohio with Ohio State's number 1 option here in Emeka Egbuka. I think this is a match made in heaven for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that there's a lot of different needs for them. Mason Graham's on the board. Probably Mason Graham. However, I have to go ahead and pick a wide receiver for them here, and that is Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State.
Speaking of match made in heaven for this next pick for the Dallas Cowboys, I think it's pretty, yeah. You got to go Ashton Jeanty here.
They need a running back. Best running back we've seen in so long, yeah.
This is probably the best running back since Saquon. You go from, if you take Jeanty, you go from having the worst running back room in football to arguably a top 5 running back room in football. Because I think Rico Dowdle will be a perfect complementary back to him. And Jeanty and Dowdle, that would be sick. You get another weapon for Dak, so he isn't just trying to force feed CeeDee Lamb so much, because they just don't really have many outside of CeeDee Lamb. That the skill positions for Dallas is pretty awful this year. And I think this kind of helps solve it. You get a run game to take some alleviation off Dak in that pass game. I think that's just absolutely perfect. If Mason Graham, that's kind of another. If Mason Graham is still available, I think you pass to get Graham, because you fix that D line like that. But Will Campbell's also in consideration because their offensive line has not been that good this year. But when you're Dallas and you have so many holes right now, you just go and get best player available, and that's Ashton Jeanty. He's the best player available. Pretty easy pick there. As I kick it over to you for the Chicago Bears for pick 12.
I think that you got to pick one of the tackles here. I feel like you really desperately need an offensive lineman. The guards aren't really nearly as great. You have Will Campbell sitting right in front of your face, as is Kelvin Banks Jr. I think it's one of those two. I lean with Will Campbell just a little bit over him. I think that he's played a little bit better this season. I'm going to have to say that of everybody on LSU right now, he's probably the only one that actually played up to expectations this season. I feel like, yes, he kind of fell off a little bit comparatively to what he was last year, but still, I think that the expectation of him being a good player is there. And if this is what we're going to see out of him, even at the NFL level, this is still elite stuff. I think this is the perfect scenario for these guys in Chicago. I think it's just whichever one you prefer. I think that no matter what, you got to go online, though. You desperately need somebody to block for Caleb Williams with your first pick. So go ahead and give me him to go here. Will Campbell out of LSU to the Chicago Bears as number 13, the Indianapolis Colts. Who do you got?
So for this, I think you got to go corner here most likely. Will Johnson and Travis Hunter, the top 2 off the board.
Benjamin?
And I think I'm going to go with Benjamin Morrison. There's a lot of talk of him maybe returning due to the fact that he hasn't played this year due to injury and he still has eligibility. But as long as he is on the board, as long as until he says he is coming back, I'm on the expectation he's going to enter the draft. And I think it fits here perfectly. That Colts secondary outside of Kenny Moore is awful. And Kenny Moore's a slot guy. You got to get an outside guy. And I think Benjamin Morrison can be that. I really love this pick here. Some may say it's a little bit of a reach, but if you're looking at the top players available on this board, they don't really need edge because they already have a good D line. They don't need offensive line. They don't need quarterback. Like that's really all the top guys available. And you really think they're going to take Loveland or Warren this high? I don't think so.
I think
So
they'd trade back if anything. That's the point.
I think this would be a perfect trade back scenario and get one of those
If
top
Starks
tight ends.
falls,
If Starks falls, yeah,
oh,
instantly you grab him. I've done mocks where Starks has fallen, and I think that fits perfectly. But since we're not doing trades, because that just makes it too confusing at this point, I'm just going to
right.
go with the best corner available and Benjamin Morrison as I kick it over to you for the Miami Dolphins. Hopefully, you just take the worst player available because screw the Dolphins.
I wish I could do that, and I absolutely hate the Dolphins, and I know, but man, you can't
DJ
lie here.
Ugabale.
It kind of worked out perfectly for them in their favor here. I feel like they get one of the offensive tackles that they so desperately need, and I think Calvin Banks Jr. is a monster of a pickup for them. I think they desperately need somebody there, and Calvin Banks Jr. He's a very good player. I'm gonna have to go ahead and just throw him here to them. A lot of people are saying Josh Simmons could rise up after a combine, things like that, but I don't think Josh Simmons goes this high. I still think he's a decent prospect out of Ohio State, but I think Calvin Banks Jr., at least as of right now, is just the monumental, overwhelming pick for these guys. And I think they get the job done there. Working in the trenches a little bit, which is something that Mike McDaniel's not really used to doing. So good on them if they actually do this. But unfortunately for us as Bills fans, I'm not looking forward to this selection.
Yeah. And now we're at pick 15 for the Buccaneers. I think if there was one of the top corners available, you snag them because their secondary, their corners are pretty bad. But it's not. And
PFF is not it.
Yeah, PFF has tight end as one of their needs. I don't know what you're smoking. Don't disrespect the GOAT Kate Otten like that. But I think also another one of their needs is edge rusher. Best edge rusher available, Nick Scott out of Texas A&M. He's really risen up the board. Yeah,
I love that fit.
He has been rising up the boards lately. I think you get him and Vita Vea. They already have a good run defense. Scorton's a great run defender, and he can rush the passer. I think this is the perfect fit for them as they look to improve on that defense that has been kind of underwhelming for big parts of this year.
Yeah, I have Jalen Walker at number 16 to the Rams. They need linebacker pretty bad, in my opinion. They need to keep upgrading that defense. I think that it would be between Scorton and Walker. If Scorton was there, most definitely they'd pick Scorton up. I think he can definitely play linebacker too, and I feel like he'd probably slide in at edge, but I feel like at least for the Rams' sake, they need someone on that defense. I definitely was thinking about Tyleik Williams as well, Ohio State. And
the Williams guys.
Yeah, I know, right? But I do think that Jalen Walker's a very good fit for them. I'm surprised that I'm not talking about the Philadelphia Eagles right now, but
yeah,
they're going to go ahead and pick a guy from Georgia. I think that the Bulldogs linebacker is going to be a perfect fit on that defense.
I think it'd be a great Swiss Army knife as he has played a lot in the box and he's played a lot in the D-line. You can move around him and do a lot of things.
That's what they really need right now is they need that guy that can really jump anywhere because their depth has just been something they've lacked so much. So realistically, if one guy goes down to the linebacker, you move him to linebacker. Somebody goes down at the edge, you move him to edge, and it's perfect fit for me.
Yep. And then for the Niners with this pick, I'm going to go with Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota, the tackle. He is someone who's really risen up boards a lot lately. He's had a great year, only allowed 1 sack and one hit. I mean, he kind of was like a day 2 pick to start the year, but he's kind of gotten himself safely into a first-round guy. And the Niners need tackle help. Trent Williams is
held up nicely against Abdul too when they played.
Yeah, exactly. He's 36, 37. So he's getting up there in age. And then the right tackle is flat out just not good. So I think Ursary's perfect. He learns behind Trent Williams for a year or two. I think that can really help with his development. I love that pick for the 49ers. I think he is the best, honestly, probably player available, or at least best tackle available. As I kick it over to you for the Arizona Cardinals.
How about Mykel Williams this time? I really like him a lot for these guys. I think they need an edge rusher pretty badly here. I
They
think
just
that
need anyone on the D line, honestly.
realistically, they really need a D lineman pretty bad. I think that he is the best available. Again, it's back to him and Tyleik Williams. I think that they're both two of the best guys on the board right now, right here at this spot. I mean, you can guess. I guess you could throw it out. The suggestion for the guy from Michigan there, Kenneth Grant. I think
That's
he's
who
a
I
solid.
honestly, that's probably who I would have taken, but
He's still a
it's not a
solid
bad
guy.
pick. Yeah, not a
But
bad
I
pick there.
think that they need edge rusher just a tiny bit more. I think that the way their scheme works, their edge rushers need a little bit more of a say in that defense. I feel like the defensive tackles don't really do nearly as much because they play a 3-4, so they only have one D tackle. I feel like the edge rushers are just a little bit more important. I think that they'll go out and get Michael Williams out of Georgia, a match made in heaven for a lot of different teams here, but I really like this one for the Cardinals.
And then we move to the Atlanta Falcons, who they
This
also
is
have
who
an
I had
awful.
Kenneth Grant going to.
I do not, because I think pass rush is more of an issue for them than run defense. Matthew Judon's their only even decent pass rusher, and he's an
Are we looking
outside
at
backer.
Shamar?
What?
Are we looking at Shamar?
No, I'm looking at who was projected to be a top 5 pick going into the season.
Oh,
Kind of has been a little bit underwhelming, but has picked it up these last couple of weeks. I'm going to go with James
James
Pierce
Pierce.
Jr. I think he is the best pure pass rusher available. I think Shamar's a little bit better against the run and bigger, but I think Pierce is better purely as a pass rusher, and they desperately need more pass rush help. As Judon's getting up there in age, and he's really their only good pass rusher, I think he instantly brings some juice to that team. I really like that fit for him. Kenneth Grant and Shamar were also in consideration as they just need D-line help pretty badly. But ultimately, I just went with the guy who can get after the quarterback the best, and that is Pierce. As we move to the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I have the Seahawks taking Shamar. I think that, yes, they do need a little bit more run defense help with Kenneth Grant. That could work.
Over an
But
offensive lineman?
over an offensive
Interesting.
lineman, yes. And here's the issue for me with them is I feel like, yes, the offensive line has been inconsistent at times this season, and definitely
Inconsistent? What do you mean? It's been like a
no.
bottom 3 in football.
Well, they've had a couple of really good games though. Like that Rams game, the first one they played where they lost in OT. They played very well in that game, albeit the Rams don't have the greatest pass rush, but still.
Did,
Either way though,
did,
I really do
hey,
think that Shamar.
didn't the Rams have like 7 sacks in that game? I thought the Rams killed them in that game. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game, but I thought the
I
Rams
think you're
killed.
talking about them. I think it might have been the Monday night game for the Rams that
I,
you're thinking of. I don't know.
I
I do think that O line is definitely within consideration here, and it was definitely I had Josh Simmons or him at this pick. Those are the two guys because I also had the I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name, but the Minnesota offensive tackle that you had earlier. I
Nursery.
had him. Yeah, I had him going uh at 17 to the 49ers, so it kind of really ruined the whole tackle theme for me here. I think that
Yeah,
it's
it's
just too
7
much of
sacks.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit. But either way, I do think that they definitely need an offensive tackle. Yes, but I think it's just too much of a reach right here. I think you don't want to reach
Oh,
and if
oh,
you're
you don't
saying
like Simmons or Milam that much?
no, I really don't. I think that if they go, they're going to be probably from 27 to 32 range, if that. And I do think that in most scenarios, I just have them moving back and just taking one of the tackles a little later. But with where they are on the board, I feel like you just go out and get a guy like Shamar Stewart. You don't want to go out and reach for one of the tackles. Just get a guy who can really be flexible on your D line. He can play linebacker or the edge, and he's also played middle linebacker back in high school as well. So realistically, wherever you need this guy to go, he can go. It's similar to the Rams pick where you just really need flexibility on that defense that you just don't know what's going to happen with. So realistically, no matter how the board falls, I feel like this pick right here sets it up for the rest of the draft where you can go wherever you want and Shamar can just play whatever position you don't draft. I feel like that's perfect. I feel like they do go line probably second and third rounds, but
That's
at least
fair.
for this, I think that they have to go with the best guy available for their scheme, and that's Shamar Stewart in this pick.
That's fair. And I mean, with Mike McDonald being a defensive guy, it totally makes sense that uh they would take a defensive guy first with their first round pick. So then we go to the Washington Commanders, and for me, it's between tackle and corner. And I think the best tackles are better than the best corners in this scenario. So I'm gonna go with Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia. I think just Josh Simmons with his injury concerns, I think they're gonna just play it a little bit safer, and they're gonna go with Milam, another guy who's really risen up draft boards over the season. I really like him out of West Virginia. I think he is also someone that is more of a pure tackle, unlike Josh Simmons, who someone that projects to be a little bit more of a guard, and they need a pure tackle more so. So I think Milam is the better fit here. And I'm going to go with him over the top corners just because I don't really know if there's any other corners that are first round worthy. I mean, you could say Revel or maybe Jade Barron, but Revel coming off a torn ACL and Jade Barron's been inconsistent this year. I just don't feel comfortable taking a corner at 21 outside of the top guys who have already been taken.
Yeah, I really do agree with that as well. But number 22, the Houston Texans, I think very much so, is Josh Simmons here.
Yeah.
I understand just 2 picks ago we were talking about the Seahawks, reaching for him, and now back-to-back picks we go with the tackles that we're talking about. However, I don't think Josh Simmons goes there to play tackle. I think he slides into guard. They desperately need the interior O-line right now. And I feel like for Houston, that's just something where it's desperation mode right now with the way they've kind of fallen off this season, the way they've collapsed. I think a lot can be attributed to that offensive line. And I feel like a guy in Josh Simmons, yes, he has injury concerns, but when he is not injured, he is one of the best guys you can get in this class. I think that he fits perfectly in their scheme. He'll slide right into that middle of that offensive line and hopefully be a good protector for C.J. Stroud and the Texans for the next few years to come. So go ahead and give me him. Another guy I really thought about was Tyleik Williams there from Ohio State. I do think that he could have definitely been the guy here too, but I think they have a very good defense. It's just about the fact that they really need that pass rush to not that pass rush, that corner help more than they need pass rush.
No, that's fair. So then at pick 23, we have the Denver Broncos, and I think they go and they try and get Bo Nix some more help. I think the top couple receivers being off the board, I think they go and look to tight end. And I'm going to go with Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I think he is the better overall receiver than Colston Loveland. I think obviously Loveland's kind of been screwed. The fact that Michigan quarterback play has been awful, but I think they're going to be looking for more of a receiver type. And Warren, I think, is just a little bit better of a receiver. So I'm going to go with Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland. I think the top receivers are gone. They want to get Bo Nix some more help. And the receiving room has some pieces. Obviously, they've drafted a lot of guys lately, and they have Cortland Sutton. So I think they look to go and get a tight end because I don't think Greg Dulcich and Adam Troutman are the answer there. So Tyler Warren, I think, fits in perfectly to the Sean Payton system.
Yeah, Dulcich actually just got released a couple days ago. He got put on waivers or whatever. So either way, though, for this next pick, I feel like the Ravens are really upset about my last pick with Houston. I think they really wanted to get Simmons, but unfortunately for them, they're not going to be able to. I have them instead going after Tyleik Williams of the defensive line. I think they really do need that interior D-line presence right now. It's kind of showed. And yes, they have one of the best run defenses in the league, but they need a guy who can rush the passer. I think Tyleik Williams fits that perfectly, a lot like Chris Jones coming out of college. A little bit of things to clean up in the speed rush department, but overall power rush, which is what you're going to be doing at the D-tackle position most of the time, is right there with the best of them in college football right now. I think that another suggestion here could be Connor Williams, the Texas tackle. I think that could definitely work out too, whichever one you really want to go with here. But I think that they're going to lean on that defense a little bit here. And without the corner help that they're so desperately needing here, I don't think that they can really reach for someone like Revel or anybody like that. Go ahead and just give me the safe pick in Tyleik Williams.
Yep. And then at pick 25, I think if you're Jim Harbaugh, you're salivating in your mouth as
Colston
your two
Loveland.
biggest needs. No, your two biggest needs are tight end and D lineman, and the two best players at that position are Michigan guys. I think they go with Kenneth Grant. I think as proven last night in the Ravens game, Will Dissly's actually been playing pretty good. Their tight ends haven't been bad, and Jim Harbaugh loves defense. But the thing is with the Chargers, that's the way you kind of beat them is you got to be able to run the ball. And you saw last night the Ravens just kind of ran it down their throats in the second half. And I just think that they don't really have a lot in the interior. And I think Kenneth Grant fits here perfectly as that run stuffer up the middle. I think it's between Loveland and Grant, but I think they go Grant just because Jim Harbaugh loves defense.
Yeah, I can totally see it. I have at 26 another receiver. We're finally getting back to them. One that broke my heart earlier this season because we don't know how to play defense. Alec Iomanner. Oh, what a guy. I think that this guy is the perfect fit to replace Mike Williams this offseason. I feel like he's just a lot like him. I think that you just move on from Mike Williams. You get a little bit younger and better at the position, in my opinion. Iomanner's not just one guy that can do just the big physical catching of the football. I think that he can also be a speed threat down the seam. I think that he is a big play guy. And for Russell Wilson, this reminds me a lot of like a Doug Baldwin or a DK Metcalf. I feel like he is just one of those guys that can play in a very similar fashion to them, where he can just throw up them moon balls, and Io Manor is going to be down there to catch one of those. I think this is a match made for them that's going to be perfect. I think that Stanford is one of the worst teams, but Io Manor has certainly been one of the best players we've seen from them in a long time. Even back to like Andrew Luck and them, that's probably the only guys you can really say. But I think
Christian
that
McCaffrey.
Oh yeah, true, Christian McCaffrey too. But still, I do think that you can go ahead and give him this pick here, and I think it's a good fit for the Steelers.
Don't disrespect necked boy Davis Mills like that.
Oh, okay, bro. Actually, I did like Davis Mills. I really did. Thought he was a decent quarterback.
No.
He was the
But then
Gardner
with the
Minshew of his
Packers,
class.
I think you basically get, in my opinion, the last first round graded or at least second round graded offensive lineman left. I think there's really only one left, and it's Cameron Williams, the tackle out of
Yeah.
Green Bay. Your right side of the offensive line is not that good.
Tackle out of Green Bay.
Your left side's good. I mean, Elkin Jenkins and Josh Myers, they're pretty good. But like Zach Tom's a good tackle, but they need that other tackle to really solidify that offensive line. And I think Cameron Williams really does that. So I love this fit for him. I think it's probably because I mean their other need is corner, and I think Cameron Williams is better than any. I think Cameron Williams is better than Amos and Revel. I mean maybe Revel, but I just think Revel might fall just due to the fact that he's coming off a torn ACL.
Yeah, speaking of Revel, I have him at 28. I think that's this right now for this Minnesota Vikings team outside of quarterback, realistically. I don't think there's many holes on this Vikings team. They got a very
Running
solid
back?
offensive line. They have a good running back in Aaron Jones.
But he's old. He's
Yeah,
like
but
31.
they'll probably bring him back for another year. And also, I don't think there's a first round mock running back left in this class.
Oh, really? I think there's like 2 or 3.
I think Hampton's okay, but I feel like he falls a little bit. And
I have the next 3
realistically,
guys I have first round grades on: Hampton, Caleb Johnson, and Quinshon Judkins. I think they could all be first
I
round
think
guys.
I think if anything, they'd get Judkins, but since they don't have a second round pick, I feel
That
like
makes sense, yeah.
I feel like more than anything, they'll probably again just be one of those teams that move down to get a running back if that's what they really want to do, or even move down to get Revel. I don't think Revel gets picked up by really anybody else. I think there's a lot of teams that have that injury concern, but if there's anybody in the league that's going to take a chance on a guy like this, it's going to be them because of a man named Brian Flores. He can do whatever he wants to anybody he wants. I think that he's one of the better guys in this league if he actually is there next year. So if he's there, which I'm currently right now, I'm predicting him to stay. I think that Revel is a perfect pick for the Minnesota Vikings, shoring up a cornerback spot that they so desperately need to fix.
Pick 29 is the Philadelphia Eagles, and this may come as a little bit of a surprise, but I'm going to have them take Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Dallas Goedert is getting up there in age and has some injury history, and their backup tight ends are god awful. Calcaterra sucks. I don't even know their third string, and none of them can really block. And we know how much the Eagles love to do a lot of 12 personnel and running the football. And the issue with, like, obviously Saquon's been amazing, but the one guess they've struggled with is running behind tight ends. Loveland is a good blocker. So I think you pair him there. I think 12 personnel till Goddard's contract's up, and then you let Goddard walk with, I'm pretty sure Goddard's 31. So I think you let him go, and then Loveland becomes that guy. You know how much Howie Roseman loves getting weapons for this offense. I think you could go edge rusher here, but Howie Roseman shows that he doesn't always draft for need. He does just a lot of best player available. And I think Loveland's better than any of the edge rushers available. Also, I think there's like a second tier of edge rushers that they're going to be able to get in the second round. I think they can get one of these guys that falls. And I think they realize that because there's a lot of like good guys, but there's not any studs left. Like the next like 6 or 7 guys could all be like grouped together. And I think they probably expect one or hope one of them can fall. Maybe they trade up and get that guy. So I think that they take Loveland here, who is, in my opinion, the best player available left on the board.
Yeah, I think that you're sleeping on one big man here, a big number 2, who plays in the realm of the middle of the country. Ole Miss's Walter Nolan. I absolutely love this guy. And I
I've
have
mocked
the Buffalo Bills drafting him at number 30th overall.
me and Caleb, I think, have mocked Walter Nolan to the Bills like 3 straight times.
However, despite Walter Nolan being my pick, I want to throw out a name named TJ Sanders, South Carolina D lineman. Very good D lineman as well, in my opinion. He
I
also
hate him
is
for the Bills.
flexible. I think
I
he
hate
is
him for the Bills.
flexible. Yeah,
I because he's 290 and he plays 3 tech.
yeah, that's true.
We drafting if we draft any D lineman to be a 3 tech, it's a wasted pick because they're going to be our third string and they literally can't be higher than that. Because what are they
Right.
going to jump Eddie or Dwayne? But the thing I love about Walter Nolan is he's been a 3 tech, but he's like 20 pounds bigger and he's elite against the run. So I do not like TJ Sanders at all, but I do love Walter Nolan just for the Bills fit due to the fact that we
That's
have
fair.
zero. We
Yeah,
have
that's fair.
a 3 tech D tackle is probably like our third lowest need behind quarterback and tight end, in my opinion, and offensive tackle, so fourth lowest need,
Yeah,
my
that's
opinion.
fair. I do think though that they do end up taking Walter Nolan.
I
I
love that
really
pick.
like this guy out of Ole Miss. Big number 2, elite against the run. He can offer a little bit of pass rush, although that's not by any means his number one thing. I feel like for this Bills team, what have we been able to not do? Stop the run.
Stop the
What
run.
does this guy do? Stop the
Stop the
run.
run.
And that's exactly what we get here at number 30, a massive behemoth of a man out of Ole Miss. Go ahead and give us Walter Nolan. Thank you to the rest of the teams above us for letting him fall to us right in our laps.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Also, with how many picks we have, if he falls to pick like 25, Bean, call everyone. Just
Yeah,
call.
literally.
Give up a fourth. Give up one of our 3/4. Give up one of our 3/6s. I wouldn't be upset if we're sitting at pick 30 or 31 or maybe even 32. We call up, it gets to like
Okay.
25, 26. We offer one of our fourths and one of our sixes. We move up and we snag this guy. I love that. Love that fit. Just because I think he can actually, I think he's big enough and he's so good against the run where I think he can slide into a one tech. That's what we really need is a one tech guy because Daquan Jones's age and just kind of is not playing as great as he has
Yeah.
in years past. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they continue. I think they take another Ole Miss guy here, Trey Amos.
Mm.
As you've seen, outside of Trent McDuffie, they need cornerback help
I
badly.
thought you were going to
I
say Trey
understand a lot of.
Harris for a minute. I was
I
terrified.
understand. I understand a little bit of it has to do with the fact that Jalen Watson's been injured, but the fact that if Jalen Watson's injured, there's cornerback room is that bad outside of Trent McDuffie. That's not good. Like they need another
Yeah.
guy because outside of Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watt and Trent McDuffie's going to probably going to have to get paid soon. You know, not maybe maybe they're going to trade him away because you know how much they like paying guys. Not at all. So I just think that fits perfectly. Maybe you can move McDuffie back into a slot guy. Maybe you want to keep him back, and then you can have Amos, Jalen Watson, and McDuffie. I think that's a pretty good room. So I think that's a very good fit for him. I was tempted to go running back, but just for my own personal reasons of having Isaiah Pacheco in both of my dynasty leagues, I don't want to see them draft running back because that takes away touches from him. So I will refuse to do that. As we move into the final pick of the draft, you get the Detroit Lions.
I have Landon Jackson, an edge rusher out of Arkansas. I really like the kind of defense that Arkansas plays. I think it works really well with what they play under Aaron Glenn, and even just the grittiness, the fire, desire to play in this kind of
Gritty.
offense.
He's very gritty.
Okay, yeah,
First
yeah,
guy in, last guy out type of guy. You let him date your daughter.
yeah. Okay, bro. But I do think that Landon Jackson's a perfect fit here. I think that realistically, I've been saying that a lot. I get that, but I understand. I just think that this guy is just perfect for what they play on defense. I think that he is also another one of those edge rushers in this class, which we've been seeing a lot more of these last few years, where he's just flexible. He can go to the edge rusher and play edge. He can play linebacker. And I understand that you have Anzalone, you have Malcolm Rodriguez, but if one of those guys goes down, you really don't have the depth. And I understand because the Lions have been decently healthy this year that we haven't really seen that. But I do think that that's one thing that they have to kind of shore up here. And I feel like if there's anything, that it's going to be Landon Jackson. I see a lot of people saying Frank Ragnow's probably going to leave in free agency. I don't see that happening. I think that they keep him.
You
There's
think they
no
have the
way.
money for it?
I think that they can. I think they definitely can have the money for it. Although I do think that if he does leave, the center, obviously perfect plug and play here. But right now, I view this as almost a leisure pick. Go out and get a guy that can be a good depth piece, a good piece that's very consistent off the edge as well. You can put him at the edge rusher position. I think Landon Jackson out of Arkansas is perfect way to round out the first round for the Lions.
All right, so that's it for we have for our first round mock. I took a screenshot of it. We'll compare, I guess, so we can compare it come draft time to see how many of those we got right. Probably will end up
Yeah.
getting 0 of them because things move around. It's so hard to do mock drafts. I've never got more
Interested
than
to see where Harold Perkins goes if he goes in the second or third round. I really am very
with how
interested.
bad he's been this year. I could see him going in the day 3. He's been falling badly. He
I
has
think
been
if
pretty.
hear me out, one fit that I would love for him would be like a Minnesota. I really hope that he falls somewhere like that because if there's anybody that's going to get the most out of him, it's going to be a good defensive
Brian
coordinator.
Flores.
So
Yep.
Flores would make sense.
All right, moving on to now specific college football. As we had
Yes.
a very crazy week with a lot of upsets, some almost upsets, as Penn State almost lost to Minnesota. In Ohio State beat the doors off of Indiana. Fuck you, Will Howard. You're a bitch for taking that QB sneak instead of kneeing the ball out. You lost me $27, so I hate your bum ass. That literally, if they just need the ball, I would have won $27. So fuck you, Will Howard. My Gators got back-to-back upsets in the swamp, taking down number 9 Ole Miss 24-17. I'm so excited for this team in the future. DJ Lagway looks like the real deal. He hasn't been like as super refined or super polished as a passer, but he's great with it. He has got a great deep ball. He's obviously super athletic and can run the ball. The run game when he's the quarterback is electric, and then he hits those big plays down the field. As he can just develop as that like underneath passer, be more consistent, read defense a little bit better. The sky's the limit for this guy. He has already been extremely electric and more consistent than someone like Anthony Richardson was for us in the past. So, and Richardson only did it for 1 year and then left. DJ Lagway, we have at least 2 more years of him due to the fact that he's only a true freshman doing this. So, yeah, I'm so excited for that. Another upset would be Auburn beating Texas A&M. And then Oklahoma beating the doors off Alabama. Jalen Milroe, you suck. You suck, you suck, you suck. And then there's even more upsets. BYU's continuing their slide. They lose. And then Kansas, the first team of all time to beat 3 straight ranked teams while having a losing record, as they beat, what was it? Was it Kansas? It was Kansas State, then Iowa State, then BYU. Actually, 4 straight.
Yeah,
Oh,
BYU.
no, they lost to Kansas State by 2. Then they beat Iowa State. Then they beat BYU. Then they beat Colorado. Jane Daniels and what's the running back's name? I forgot. Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal have been playing a lot better. They were preseason favorites to win the Big 12. Then they fell off pretty badly to start the year. But they've bounced. I mean, they just lose a lot of close games, I think. But now that they're really finding their footing, playing some great football, and
I
they've
think
kind of
for
made.
Kansas, look out for them next year.
Yeah, well, it depends on if I don't know how like how their guys are like draft wise or like
Oh,
if they're
Daniels
even
isn't going into the draft, no.
is he. Well, I'm saying is the fact of like can he even come back another year? I know he's been in college football for a decent amount of time now. I don't
I
know if
think
he
he's a junior.
Okay, I don't know how many years
Look
of
it up.
eligibility he had left, but this Big 12 is just a complete mess. As every single team now has at least 2 losses. It looks like it's probably going to be Arizona State, BYU, and the championship game. But that's not even a guarantee without BYU's been playing. I mean, if they lose to a Houston or if Arizona State loses to Arizona, Colorado can jump right back in and get that spot. So because I'm pretty sure that's how the rankings are. Let me go to the Big 12 standings. Yep, it's Arizona State, BYU. Then there's Iowa State actually at 62. Then Colorado. So Colorado has got their work cut out. At least Iowa State, they have a big game against Kansas State. So it's kind of crazy. There's literally one, two,
Yeah, Jalen
three,
Daniels is a junior.
there's 10 teams in the Big 12 that are 6-2 or 5-3 in conference.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're just beating up on each other. A lot of crazy upsets. Really is kind of solidifying what's the college football playoff is going to be. Basically, the locks at this point now, barring upsets. Oregon, Ohio
Oregon,
State,
Ohio State,
Texas, Penn
Texas.
State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, SMU, and Indiana are basically the top 10. I feel like are basically locks, barring upsets. Really, I think it just comes down to unless any of those schools lose, I really the only like competition left is going to be for those last two conference champions. I don't really see much
Yeah,
movement happening, unless the college football playoff will punish teams for losing in the conference championship games, which I find would
please
be
no.
outrageous. I pray that doesn't happen because that just would be complete BS. But as all these games have happened, I guess I was going to toss it to you your updated like college football bracket, the top 12 teams that should be in. Have you made that yet? If not, I can ramble off mine real quick. Are you ready
I
to
have.
go?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
ready.
So what would your updated college football playoff bracket look like?
Number 1, Oregon, duh. Number 2, Ohio State, duh. Number 3, Texas, duh. Number 4, Penn State. Number 5, Notre Dame. Number 6, Miami. Number 7, Georgia. Number 8, Tennessee. 9, Indiana. 10, Boise State. 11, SMU. And if it wasn't for Arizona State, my number 12 team would have been Alabama.
But
However,
Arizona State, yeah.
Arizona State has to get in. Arizona State's my final spot at number 12.
All right. Mine is the top three, duh, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. At 4, I have Notre Dame. I'm gonna continue to just hate on Penn State. They just
I
beat
feel like
Minnesota
if
by
anything, this last week really proved that keeping it close with a team like Ohio State, with how Ohio State's played aside from the Oregon game, I don't think Penn State's really that bad. I just feel like they just haven't gotten the chance to prove anybody that they can beat those teams. I feel like it kind of falls back into that category of what you were saying, where you just kind of beat the teams that are on your schedule. And
Yeah, my thing is the last time Notre Dame beats a team, I understand they haven't played great teams. The last time Notre Dame beat a team by less than 18 was September 28th against Louisville. September. Then they beat Stanford by 42. Then they beat Georgia Tech by 18.
they
Then they
suck.
beat
They suck.
Nava. Then they beat Navy by 37. Then they beat Florida
Navy's
State by
ass.
4. Then they beat Florida State by 49. Then they beat Virginia by 21. Then they just beat Army by 35. Like, I understand not great competition, but they're blowing the doors off teams. While Penn State is also not playing great competition and they're winning. I mean, they're dominating some of their games, but they just almost lost to a Minnesota who is
Minnesota's
six
better
and
than
five.
that record. Minnesota's better than that record, in
They're
my
six
opinion.
and five.
I don't care, man. Did you see Minnesota's schedule this year? They played some tough teams.
Losing to North Carolina. Ooh, wow. They lost to Iowa. They got blown out by Iowa. They got they
Yeah,
They lost to Michigan, who's been bad. They lost to Rutgers. Like these are some bad. They don't
Rutgers is
have.
good.
Rutgers is 5 and Rutgers. No, they're not.
They're like 5-6 or something like that.
They're yeah. They're
6-5.
6 and 5. That's not good.
That's solid. I don't think that
Rutgers
Minnesota's
lost to Nebraska. Rutgers got blown out by Wisconsin. Rutgers lost to UCLA. Rutgers lost to USC. Rutgers is not good. Like Minnesota is
that's
not a
fair.
good team. And Penn State beat them by 1 point. They had to squeak out a win. I just am not that impressed with Penn State. So, anyways, Notre Dame at 4. Then I'm gonna have Georgia at 5, Tennessee at 6. Then I'm gonna put Penn State at 7. I'm gonna put Boise State at 8. Miami at 9, SMU at 10, Indiana at 11, and then the final spot would be Arizona State. I almost forgot about Indiana, but Indiana also hasn't played any good teams, and then their one chance to show themselves, they got the doors blown off them by Ohio State. I think they still make it in the college football playoff just because all the teams around them are losing. So as long as they beat Purdue, I think they get in just due to the fact that their record, even if they haven't beaten any great teams. But they had to keep it close to really impress me, and I was impressed by Indiana so far, but they got the doors blown off them. So I
I
think
wouldn't even
next year
say
they could be
doors
really good.
blown off, man. They had that muffed punt and then a kick return touchdown too. So like realistically, you take away those two things, that's 2 less touchdowns instantly for them. Also, if
They
you
got
really
outgained. They had 153 yards of offense, and that includes a garbage touchdown when they're losing by 3 scores. They got outgained 316 to 153.
yeah, if anything, that means that they should like. If
They got
anything,
dominated
I feel yes, they
on all
did get
three
dominated.
phases.
Yes, they got dominated. But the thing is if it wasn't for taking that run for a touchdown when he really didn't have to, being Will Howard, the punt return, I think it was, a punt return touchdown for Caleb Downs, and then a muffed punt that led to another touchdown. That's 3 touchdowns right there. That's 21 points instantly right
Okay,
there.
but then take off Indiana's garbage time. If we're gonna put in that Will Howard, yeah, but then there's the Indiana garbage time touchdown at
No,
the end
yeah,
when they were up
sure.
31-7.
Sure. Most definitely. But still, you take away that and you subtract
Yeah,
all
but
that, you're looking at a final score of, I believe it would be 7-21 in that spot. That's still not that bad considering the fact that it's Ohio State.
my thing is the Caleb Downs punt return touchdown. They could have went down the field and scored, so I can't automatically take 7 off the board. And then yeah, the Will Howard could have just kneeled it out. But if we, so I'm gonna still put 7 on the board because their offense was cooking at that point. They scored touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. They a lot of touchdowns in a row just on straight drive. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna keep them that point those points. So that makes it a 24-7 where Indiana could just not move the ball. They got outgained by 160 yards. They got blown out. They got dominated. They did not look good in that game.
No, I know they didn't. I'm just saying that it was not nearly as bad as people have made it out to be. And I feel like that's all I'm saying that for is for the people at home watching this that are that are completely thinking we're dumb for putting Indiana in the playoffs still.
Oh, well, the reason they deserve in is because literally every other team below them has 2 or 3 losses, and the teams that have 2 losses are like Clemson, Arizona State, Iowa State, Tulane, who haven't beaten anyone. Like at least like Indiana has 10 wins. Like the teams that have good wins below them all have 3 losses, like South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Bama. So that's why it's like, all right, you got to put Indiana above them because, granted, yeah, way tougher schedule, but 3 losses is 3 losses. So
Rourke
yeah,
did
India.
not look good either.
No, he did not.
No. Their
All
O
right.
line sucks.
Yeah, so I guess that's what we got for college football. The ranking show is tonight at 8. I'll be interested to see how the college football ranks the SEC after this bonanza week. Just absolute craziness. The upcoming schedule for this week isn't that great, but we also thought that last week, and then there's all these upsets. So, I mean, as there's only one ranked game,
I believe
two,
Texas
two.
A&M.
South Carolina and Clemson, which could actually have some sneaky big college football implications. South Carolina and Clemson, because like, let me look at the
If one
SEC
or two
real quick.
teams loses, then there's that. Ohio State plays Michigan as well. I understand that, like, who cares? But at the same time, that is a rivalry game. Missouri and Arkansas play. Alabama, Auburn too. Iowa State and Kansas State, which is a big game as well for
Yeah,
that Big 12. So there's a lot more games than people are kind of leading on. Same with A&M and Texas. That game is going to be huge for Texas. Especially
yeah,
because if Georgia wins and Texas loses, then Georgia shoots up to first in the SEC just like that,
yeah. But I guess the
beating them.
difference between first and second isn't that important as they do play for the it'll like playing for that.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
mean, if Texas loses, if Texas loses, there's a legitimate argument they shouldn't be in the college football playoff at all because they haven't beaten a single good team.
Yeah, no, they have not.
Like I understand they're sitting at 3 now because they're 10-1. I get it, but if they lose, I think they beat Texas A&M. But if they lose, like, and all these teams behind, like, and then say Clemson beats South Carolina, it's like, who are you putting in? The 10-2 Texas team or the 10-2 Clemson team? And Clemson at least has some wins under their belt. One of them would be in this hypothetical scenario would be
South
South
Carolina.
Carolina, which is way better. And then you look at common opponents, both Texas and Georgia, or both Texas and Clemson, both got blown out by Georgia. So it's not like it could be like, oh, you got blown out by Georgia. It's like, well, so did you at home. Like
Yeah,
at least when Clemson did it was in Georgia.
yeah.
So yeah,
Very
I mean
true.
you can make that argument. They if Clemson beats South Carolina, and that's like that would kind of be one of the teams they'd be battling in that scenario for a spot in. So I think Texas would drop out of the playoffs if they lose that game. So it does have huge playoff implications. And then Clemson and South Carolina still do because I think I understand it's not conference, but if you win that for either team that wins that, there's still a glimmer of hope that they could squeak in. There's a
Right.
glimmer of hope they could squeak in. So yeah, no,
I
there should be
really
some
hope
pretty
it's
good
South
games this weekend.
Carolina, just because I don't really like Cade Klubnik.
I like Clemson. I don't like Cade Klubnik that much, but I like
Exactly.
Clemson. I'm excited for South Carolina though next year. Because there are a lot of their all
Well,
their
I'm
top
telling
guys
you,
that return.
I
Yeah,
can't
all their
wait.
top.
Lenore Sellers is a
Yeah,
freshman too.
yeah, exactly. Well, I think he's a redshirt freshman because he's draft eligible next year.
Yeah, he is
He's
a redshirt
projected to be the
freshman
first
still.
quarterback off the board because it's between like him and Arch. But my thing with Arch is that he's probably going to return for another year, as he said he wanted to play all 4 years. But yeah, Sellers is looking like a stud. Yeah, Elijah Holstein looks like he's going to be a stud. Arch Manning, and then we have some young guys that maybe can get their spot like next year. I think next year's quarterback class is shaping up to be a lot better than this year's because this year it's two
Well, yeah.
guys and everyone else. Because it's like the two guys we draft in the first round. Then you could make an argument for Jalen Milroe just because of like his athleticism and stuff like that. It's like, could he have a Jalen Hurts type beat? But then everyone else, it's like
Yeah, like you got
awful,
Beck
awful.
and Ewers and
Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Aller. It's like that makes me want to vomit.
I
It's
feel
funny
like
looking. It's
I
funny
feel like
looking
the
at the
only way those
2022.
guys get like to be good players, I feel like you got Cam Ward and Shador Sanders who are elite quarterbacks where wherever they go, they'll make that team better. However, with the other guys, I feel like it's a situational thing. Where if Carson Beck goes to the Saints, I'd love that fit, you know? But if he goes somewhere like I don't know, Tennessee, you know, like I don't like that fit at all, you know? So it really just depends on where those kinds of guys go. It's not that they're going to be the guy that makes the team better. They're going to be the situational guys like Brock Purdy and like those kinds of players where they're game managers and they can do their job, but they have to be in the right system to
Yeah,
do that. And I feel like with Shador and Cam, those are the two guys where they can do it wherever they are. And the rest of the pack is just if you get a good fit with them, you get a good fit. Like Quinn Ewers on the Titans, good fit. Carson Beck to the Saints, good fit. However, Garrett Nussmeier to the Seahawks, no, no.
Garrett Nussmeier. It's also funny looking at the 2022 recruiting class. Just how
Oh
good the
yeah,
top was, and then there's just Drew. It's like the first one was it went Travis Hunter,
yep,
Walter Nolan, and then
yep.
Drew Aller, but then followed up Malachi Starks, Harold Perkins, Evan Stewart, Michael Williams, Josh Connerly, and Shamar Stewart. Like all of those guys studs, and then in the middle of it, Drew Aller.
Well, Harold Perkins isn't.
But Harold Perkins is better than Drew Aller.
Well, yeah, true. Comparatively to their positions, yes.
But it's like this class is so good besides the quarterbacks, because then you also have Luther Burden was high in this class, Jihad Campbell, LT Overton, Dalen Everett, Nick Singleton. But then the quarterbacks are Connor Weigman, Cade Klubnik, and Drew Aller.
Oh,
That I think
Connor
that's why
Weigman.
these last couple of quarterback classes have been pretty bad because like these last like couple recruiting classes for like from 2020 to 2021 or 2022 they've been really bad.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I'm just gonna look up 2021 real quick to see who was see if I can do. Oh, I don't want to do team. I want to do position. Okay, why is my phone being slow like this? Come on. No, I don't want it. I want it. Sorry. I want to see if I can get this because no, I don't want. Oh, God, I don't want team. I want position. This is pissing me off. 2021 football recruiting. Yeah, because I know 2022 is bad. Oh, here it is. I think I found it. Yeah. Then 2021, you got like Quinn Ewers. Okay, this one's better because you've got Caleb Williams in it. But Quinn Ewers and he hasn't looked. That's like okay. Actually, 2021's good. It's got Caleb Williams and Drake May, but I think 2020 was bad.
Yeah. Either way, though, yeah, I totally get it. There's a lot of different stuff in that within that, so yeah, it's understandable to say the least.
20. Okay, yeah, 2021 or 2020. I mean, you got Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, but then DJ Ungavale, Evan
Oh,
Prater, Jaquadion Jackson, Hudson Card, like outside of
Hudson Card.
it's kind of rough. That's why Clemson hasn't been that great. Is their last two big quarterback prospects have they've whiffed on in Klubnik and Ungavale. I mean, at least Klubnik's played decent. Ungavale is just like the
Complete
worst
shit.
quarterback of all time. As we move into our final segment, Sabres talk. I know
Yes.
normally we're very negative about the Sabres on this channel because usually they don't give us much to be positive about. But boy, do we got to give them their flowers. They've been 11-6-1 since starting 0-3, won 7 out of the last 9. Just swept the West Coast trip without their best goal scorer, their best forward in Tage Thompson, who will be back tomorrow, by the way. Um, Alex Tuch's been cooking. UPL's been cooking. Our three-headed monster in defense has been cooking. As Owen Power leads all defensemen in even strength points, and Bowen Byram's third.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like having them two there, they're never going to have the gaudy point totals just because they're never going to get the first line power play because of Dahlin being there. Like you're not going to do that because Dahlin is no matter Byram and Power can break out. If they ever become as good as Dahlin, that's just like insane for Buffalo, but probably never going to happen. Dahlin's a top 5 defenseman in the league. I mean, I think he's in that second tier of guys. I think that first tier is Makar and Quinn Hughes, but I think he's in that second tier with like Adam Fox and Charlie McAvoy. Is that like that top 5 to 7-ish range? Because there's the two clear top dogs. I don't think Dahlin's ever going to reach that status, but I think he's cemented himself in that second tier of defensemen as elite superstar guys. And then Power and Byram, obviously, they've been playing great. Alex Tuch now leads the league in shorthanded goals with 3. 21 points in 21 games, playing like basically Selke level defense. He is right now on pace to have the best season of his career. Shout out to him. Obviously, Tage Thompson's cooking prior to the injury. He comes back. Jason Zucker's been cooking. Ryan McLeod's cooled down a little bit, but he's still really good. Dylan Cousins has looked better. Basically, just don't put Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn together. Yuri Kulich, what a game he had against Anaheim.
Oh, the game winner.
Yeah, and I think he had another assist or whatever. I think he had 2 points in that game. Really shout out to him. A lot of people didn't expect him to be able to be a center when he moved up to the NHL level. They were kind of putting him over as a winger, but he got his chance at center in that game, and he was driving. That was our best line that game, was his line. He was driving a great line that game, and obviously had that beautiful game winner. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to UPL really standing on his head against the Kings, where he is now. UPL is now. I'm assuming you saw this when you were editing my article. He is now 12th out of 76 goalies and goals safe above expected. Wanna who's 73rd out of 7? Wanna who's like, I think it's 73rd.
Devin Levi.
Yeah, but Devin Levi has been cooking for the Amherst. So as one person,
he can cook AHL prospects. Yay!
As one person's been saying on Twitter, I think UPL and Devin Levi like hate each other because whenever they're together, they both play worse. But then when you send Levi down to the AHL, he starts cooking, and so does UPL. It's weird. You can't they can't do the tandem thing, but when they're separated from each other, because when UPL when Devin Levi got some starts in a row last year on the Sabres, he was cooking like towards the end of the year. But it's like they just can't do the tandem thing. They both need to be like top dogs, and I think that's kind of might turn into an issue with. I think Levi might get traded for that reason. He doesn't seem like he's someone who could be a backup. He could cook as a top dog, but with the way UPL's been playing, it's like you don't need that out of him because UPL's been so good. And then James Reimer with arguably the save of the year. Miller, he literally Ryan Miller reincarnated. Me and my friends do that all the time. Like we'll catch something and we'll just go Miller, and
yep.
And that's basically what that was. Yeah, that's basically what that was. It was behind his head. He just looked Miller.
Yeah.
Anything you have to add about this Sabres team?
Man, that Kings game, we really needed to show up. Jason Zucker with the only goal on the power play in that one. Really good game from Riddick, too. I liked what he had, despite me completely shitting on him the entire time we were talking about him on BSI. I felt like we were going to get shut out and lose that game 1-0 because of me talking about it, and then we ended up being the team winning that, so lucky for us. Nonetheless, though, we move into that Anaheim game. Yuri Kulich, that line looked phenomenal in that game. Obviously, the game-winning goal. He did not have another point, unfortunately, but he did have a lot of production in that game as well. Realistically, before the overtime, our best period by far, that second period with the 2 goals being scored, both of them in that second period. Kind of flat in that first period, but we kind of found our footing in the second period. Third period, really just back and forth. Nobody could really get much going. So realistically, overtime winner for us. I thought that if we were going to lose any of these games, it would be the LA Kings game. but we ended up struggling a little bit more with the Ducks, in my opinion. However, Luukkonen, man, just one goal given up in not one goal given up, but
3 goals given up in 2 games.
yes. Wait, no, two goals given up in 2 games.
Oh yeah. I'm an idiot. You're right.
One goal on average he gave up in those 2 starts. Really great job from Luukkonen. I understand he didn't face a crazy number of shots, but he did what he had to do when he was faced with shots. So good on him. The Sharks game, obviously, like you mentioned, Reimer with a masterclass. He had 31 saves on 33 shots. He looked great in that game. It didn't look too great at the beginning. We were down 2-1, but I mean, we found our way back and we win this one. And at the end, to put it away at the end. So good on the Buffalo Sabres. 3-game win streak heading into this next stretch, which is going to be brutal. We have the Wild and then the Canucks at home for these next 2 games. And then you got teams in the Islanders and the Avalanche and Winnipeg all up next on the schedule as well. So this is going to be a very telling tale right now for the Buffalo Sabres over the course of these next 5 games. I'm really excited. Minnesota's played way above expectations this year. I'm excited to see what we can do against a team like Minnesota. We are at home though, so there's that.
Yeah. Our stretch for the rest of like 2024. Obviously the Wild and the Canucks you mentioned, then obviously the Avalanche and the Jets. Then we have a couple of like, oh well, yeah, and the Islanders thrown in there. Then we have a couple of like easier games, but overall, Utah, Red Wings, then Rangers, then Capitals, then Maple Leafs, then Canadians, then Maple Leafs, Bruins, Islanders, then Blackhawks, then Blues, and then Stars. Like really out of those games, it's like the Canadians, the Blackhawks, the Blues, and the Hockey Club are like the only teams that are like kind of bottom feeders ish. Like all the other teams are like, and maybe you could throw the Red Wings. All the other teams are playoff caliber or cup contending teams. So like the rest of 2024 is going to be really telling for how good this Sabres team is going to be. Hopefully we come out good in this. If we can even be competitive by the end of that stretch, I'll be very excited for this team because it does look to see and then the first 3 games of January go Avalanche, Golden Knights, Capitals.
Yeah. Okay,
before finally we get an easier stretch where it goes Senators, Kraken, Hurricane, Penguins, Kraken. That's a little bit of an easier stretch. There, I mean, just trying
a lot of teams can change over the course of this next couple weeks.
Obviously, the trade deadline and stuff, too. And then also our stretch the end in April is kind of tough too. But I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you can't only beat bad teams; you have to beat good teams. And
right,
yeah, I mean, we're currently sitting in a playoff spot. That's hope for Lindy Ruff to be able to continue to get this team going. I think Tage Thompson coming back is really going to give a boost to this offense because, yeah, we were able to win these 3 games, but our offense didn't look overly great in any of these games. I mean, 1 goal, then 2 in regulation. We got the 3rd in overtime, but only 2 regulation. And then against the Sharks, 3, but like it's the Sharks. And one of them was just a tuck breakaway on a shorthanded where he just made the play all himself. We haven't gotten a lot of like consistent, solid offensive play, which has been a little concerning.
We don't really set it up more situational where the other team has to mess up for us to get the chance.
Luckily, Thompson coming back and our offense with Tage Thompson is a lot better. As we've seen. I mean, we go to before that. Basically Thompson got injured in the Canadiens game. We scored 5 there. I mean, 2 against the Flames, but the Flames, that's kind of how they play. 6 against the Rangers, 5 against the Senators, 3 against the Islanders. Like we were putting up a lot of points prior to that Tage injury. So the fact that we were able to go 4-1 in his absence is great to see. Hopefully, good that we have him back because we're going to need him for this upcoming stretch. And I do like how we're actually like we were safe about Thompson. How they said, oh, he could have played in the Flyers game a week and a half ago if it was a playoff game. Instead, they just were like, we're going to hold him out until he is 100%. We're going to make sure he is completely ready. Why bring him back early like they did last? Because last year they brought him back early with that wrist injury. And he was not good for the next 2 following months because he didn't have that slap shot because of that injury. They're like, we're not going to do that this year. We're going to be more patient with a November injury to make sure that he is healthy. And when he does play for us, he's playing at the top of this game come playoff time. So we don't like dig ourselves too deep of a hole. So I really like the way that they handled that injury. Make sure he's 100%. Maybe he might have a couple of games coming back where he'll be a little bit slow to knock the rust off, but hopefully by like the Islanders game or the Avalanche game, he'll be back to full force, and our offense should look to be as good. And then obviously we can add, as Kevin Adams
Yeah.
has been kind of aggressive looking to add. He's been making calls to people. Will he pull the trigger is the real question. I think the way we've been, if we continue to play this well, I think you at least have to make some move. I don't know what that move will be, but we can't, if like we're sitting in a playoff contention spot, Adams' job is probably on the line. Not guaranteed, but I know we've gotten that argument before, but it probably would be on the line. How many GMs get that many opportunities and then miss the playoffs and then keep their job like that, even if we are in a
That's fair.
rebuild, to be
Yeah,
that
that's
close
true.
and fail so many times? I think unless it's like we score like 92 points and then it's just, oh, a crazy year, we're 95, you have to get in or something like that. But I feel like if we miss out on the playoffs, more likely than not, he's gone. And I think he realizes that. So as long as we continue to play like this, I expect moves to be made sooner rather than later. I'm not saying we make a move just to make a move, make sure it's the right one. But I
Right.
expect moves probably I wouldn't be surprised if we make a big trade before the end of the year, before New Year. If we're
Yeah,
continuing to play at this level, I could definitely see with how aggressive he's been a big move. Maybe we make a trade with the Rangers. They're looking to move things around. I don't exactly know what we'd have to give up. But they're looking to trade some of their guys because they're not content with how their team's been doing. So it'll be interesting to see how this team plays over the next, I guess, the rest of the season. I'm excited.
Next
Hopefully
week,
it's not.
so we discuss
Yeah,
this again.
yeah,
This
probably.
kind of most likely.
Hopefully we're positive again. We're the
Yes.
Sabres, so probably not. It's pretty rare that we're ever positive about this team because the like that Facebook comment. Why aren't you smiling? There's nothing to
Oh,
smile about in my
nothing
life.
in my life.
That's
Yeah.
that's 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 the life of a Sabres fan. Why aren't you
Yep.
smiling? There's usually not much to smile about with the Sabres. Um, Hopefully, me saying this and me doubting them, they'll prove me wrong. Just like I doubted as soon as we won the Kings game. I'm like, oh, we'll probably lose to the Ducks because that's the Sabres. And then after we beat the Ducks, I literally put on Instagram incoming loss to the Sharks because we're the Sabres. And then we found a way to win that game. So I'm going to continue to doubt them optimistically, if that makes any sense at all.
Yes, indeed.
Optimistically doubt them. I'd get it root for them and think they're going to win, but in the back of my mind, would be like, we're probably going to lose because we're the pathetic Sabres of always. And then hopefully we win.
Yeah, let's see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's all we got for you today. I know this was a little bit of a shorter one. There isn't
Yeah.
much MLB. Not really
Yep.
much to talk about. No Bills to talk about. Not too many great games in the NFL this week, if we're being honest. I mean, there's some kind of crazy upsets, but nothing really too much we want to talk about.
I'm stupid for ever thinking the 49ers had a chance.
Yeah. So I think I went
Well,
2-1 this week against you in opposite picks because you picked the Seahawks, correct? Or did you pick the Cardinals?
I think I did.
Yeah, because if you picked the Seahawks, then I went 2-1 because I picked the Niners and the Eagles. You picked the Rams, or I picked the Packers and Eagles. You picked the
I
Rams
did
and
not
Niners.
pick the Cardinals, actually.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying 2-1. You picked the Seahawks. So we had 3 different games picked because you picked the Rams over the Eagles, you picked the Niners over the Packers, and I picked the Cardinals over the Seahawks.
Oh.
And so I went. So I'm closing the gap in the picks. I think I'm only 2 games behind you now.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
catching up on me.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Our upset pick both failed as we had the good reasoning for the Bears, but didn't happen. That
They
was almost a
almost
crazy
did,
comeback.
dude.
Yeah,
Oh.
Caleb. One thing I do want to say, Caleb Williams has looked great since Waldron was fired. Great game against the Packers. He's had over 300 yards in back-to-back games. DJ Moore looks
Rejuvenated.
rejuvenated. Yes,
There
he
you
looks
go.
great. Romo Dunze is
English.
kind of playing good again. So I do have hope for them in the future. This season's not it. Eberflus has got to go, and then they got to go and hire someone.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Actually, one who has the highest odds to be the next Bears coach?
Bobby Slowick. I don't know. Mike
Joe
Vrabel.
Brady.
I'd like that.
I hope not. I'm not trying to find a 4th offensive coordinator in the 2020s. Unless the Giants fire Brian Dable and he wants to come back, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, give him another chance.
Yeah, he can bring Daniel Jones with him to be our backup.
Stop.
The guy who was supposed to turn into Josh Allen can now sit behind Josh Allen.
Yeah, and hold a clipboard because he's never playing. And then as soon as Josh Allen goes down, we'll sign somebody in free agency, and he'll be like, "Come on, man."
Personally, I think Tim Boyle should be our backup because if Josh Allen is to ever get injured, I want a season to be tanked. I want to. If Josh Allen is ever injured and misses more than like 2 or 3 games, I don't see us winning any of them. So let's just tank for a high draft pick. For being honest,
Yeah, that's fair.
because then it would help us the following year to have a really good draft pick to do
Right.
whatever with.
That's why we bring in Daniel Jones.
With our luck, though, with our knock on wood, with our luck, if Josh Allen is ever to like have a season-ending injury, it'll happen like week 16 after we're in a playoff race.
Stop.
That way,
No.
if it does happen, I want it to just happen week 1 so I can give up on the season from the start and be like, all right,
Yeah, at
season's
least for
over.
the Patriots' sake, that's what happened with Brady the one year in
Exactly.
2007.
The thing is, they went 11-5, so it's not like they got that.
Yeah,
big-
Matt Castle of all people.
Yeah, because Brady's not that important.
Clearly not.
Yeah.
No.
Peyton Manning better. Aaron Rodgers better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Pat Mahomes better.
Drew Brees, who?
Josh Allen better.
Phillip Rivers.
Yes. Me playing backyard football is better.
Nah, man. Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's better.
Hear me out. Jamarcus Russell.
Hear me out, Nathan Peterman.
Yeah, we could do the hear me out meme, but with dog shit quarterbacks.
Hear me out. Nathan Peterman wasn't really that bad.
Hear me out. If Jamarcus Russell wasn't fat and watched film.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
Hear me out. Maybe if Jameis Winston actually got LASIK before he got drafted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we meme around too much, that is all we do have for the episode on Friday. We will do our predictions like normal. Maybe talk Sabres. Maybe just do a longer NFL episode as there isn't much MLB or baseball to catch up on. Maybe a little bit of basketball, but probably not, just because there's not really much to catch up on for that. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I see we have grown our subscriber base to 16 now, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.
See you later.